So we are closing today's session with this roundtable. We have two questions to trigger the debate, and it's a honor for me to moderate this panel with such great panelists. You know most of them because they have already talked today. Toby has talked today, Vinit and Bill in the opening. On top of that, we have Jeff Donahoo and Carlos Casas. So we are starting right now. So just before starting, as I said, thanks for all you to come here. Feel free to ask any question. I will I will foster it and even ask you directly if needed. And also thanks to Miguel for arranging this, but especially for all these years and what he has achieved. And also it has been special in the last few years. So I think all of this is thanks to you. So many thanks, Miguel. So let's start. As you can see, the topic of the roundtable is around these two questions: are the online judges competitive or collaborative tools? And are they useful just for learning or also for teaching? Here in the panel, we have a very good mix. We have Professor Pucher, Professor Donahoo, also Toby, who is part professor and part PhD student. Well, Carlos is also a PhD student and Vinit. So, as I said, great panelists. I don't think I need to introduce you more because you have already been introduced. So the dynamics of this session. First, I will give the floor to the panelists. They will have approximately 15 minutes each to give their thoughts about the topic. And then at the end, we will have approximately 40 minutes for questions and answers from the audience, the remote audience through chat, and also from myself. So let's start. Is there any volunteer to start? Or if not, we can start with Vinit.
Sure. Right, so thank you very much for the introduction. The question we are trying to answer today is are two questions, right? Are the online judges competitive or collaborative tools? That's one. And the other one is, are they useful for teaching or just self-learning? So I'll start with the first one. Are online judges competitive or collaborative tools? And so I think the quick answer to that is they are both. They can be used for self-learning, for competition as well as for collaboration. Well, to start with the collaborative aspect, first of all, when one is working in a team, in a competitive environment, then there's collaboration that happens because all the ACM, ICPC problems are done in teams of 3. So there's obviously a very collaborative aspect to it. Unless you work in a team, you are not going to be able to succeed. And this is true for life as well, right? When you are in industry, you are going to be working in a team that is probably going to be bigger than 3 people. So it's good to get those dynamics in place early on. The other thought that I had in mind is that, at least for me, it's been a great collaborative experience, because had this not happened, had I not worked with Professor Ravi, I mean, we wouldn't be here today. So I see that as an extremely valuable experience. And so in that way, I feel, at least in my experience, online judges are definitely collaborative tools. And the other way I look at this is that, for example, UVA and ACM, ICPC are 2 judges, but because of the collaborative aspect, they have been fused into being one, with Professor Revia handling these judges that are across continents. So to sum up, like I said, I think they are both competitive and collaborative tools. Now, in regards to the other question, which is, are they useful for teaching or just self-learning? We had some great presentations today in which we saw, like Toby presented it, they're definitely useful for learning. In regards to it being useful for self-learning, I think there are a lot of people across the world who are using online judges to learn by themselves, either because they don't have the environment, because of the educational opportunities, so they are learning using books or learning by themselves. Like I said, the other aspect, other than what Toby mentioned, is that for teaching, I know of a couple of examples. I'm sure there are others. For example, Professor Stephen Halim, who's author of the book Competitive Programming, along with his brother Felix Halim, teaches a course at National University of Singapore called CS3233, which is a competitive programming course for which credit is given. So it's part of the university curriculum, and credit is given for students solving problems. The basic structure of the course is that it lasts, I think, across 14 weeks, and every week students are assigned 10 problems, and mostly all of them are from UVa Online Judge. And I think the focus is to try to get as many problems solved. The cool aspect of it is that it's open to everyone across the world. It's not just the students of NUS that are participating. It's open to professionals. It's open to students from other universities. And problems are already categorized. So for example, I think weeks 4 through 9 is graph theory. So you start with simple graphs, and then you move on to the different aspects of graphs. And week 1, for example, might be warm-up or ad hoc problems. So I think in that light, it's a great way to structure a course, because you teach students not only the material, but you also teach them to simulate the whole competitive experience, and you give them credit for it in a course. Another example that I've seen at another university where credit is given is from Madison University in Virginia, and that's in the US. And Professor Christopher Mayfield teaches CS280, which is called Programming Challenges. And his approach is actually similar, or is based on Professor Halim's approach. Problems are chosen from UVA, they are categorized, and then students are expected to solve them over the course of the semester. So these are the 2 instances that I'm aware of, but I'm sure there are many others in which these are occurring. So to sum up, I think online judges are tools for self-learning as well as teaching. So thank you.
Thanks, Vinit. Any question from the audience? not yet. I'll I'll ask later. So we give the floor to Carlos.
Thank you. Well, in order to answer or to dissert about these questions, I think first I should say that I kind of agree with Vinit that these two options in both of the questions are kind of two faces of the same coin. So you cannot have one without the other. So in order to give my insight, I would like to go to the past, some pre-historical, pre-online judges thing. So when I was younger, when I was in high school, I was addicted to all these kind of contests. It didn't matter what, physics, maths, and I came up with computer science contests. So I started preparing, learning for the International Olympiad in Informatics. So at that time, I wasn't aware of the existence of the UVa Online Judge. I don't know whether it was open already for the public or not. So the way we had to learn was just you connected to something new which was called internet, to a page where a lot of problems were posted. You downloaded them, because of course the connection was expensive, so you have to connect, download them, and cut the connection. And then once you download the problems, the PDFs or HTMLs, whatever, then you had to code them yourself, try imagine test cases yourself, and auto-evaluate them. So of course this is not a proper way to learn. In fact, 1 week ago I came up with one of these TEDx presentations where they said that in order to learn something, to become an expert of something, you need two things. The first thing is you need to work a lot of that thing, practice, practice, practice. The second thing you need, which I didn't have at that time, is quality feedback. So without feedback, there is no way that you will be able to reach a level as high as you would with proper feedback. So when I naturally moved from IOI to ICM ICPC, and I met Miguel Revilla and Antonio, so all you guys, I discovered the UVa Online Judge. And the first thing I thought was, wow, what a marvelous tool. Now I will be able to learn. So the first thing I thought was, I will use this on my own to learn on my own. Of course, you start doing this, and you only reach up to a certain level. This is in line with what Jose Maria explained before. So you get there. At some point, you cannot progress anymore, maybe because you don't have the material, maybe because you don't have someone else explaining it to you, but most probably because you are not surrounded by the people who can help you improve and to which you can help improve. So with this, I got with teams. In the first year, I was with Antonio in the team. In the other years, I was with Jesus and Isaac. So during these years, I really learned a lot with them and from them by using the UVa Online Judge. In this respect, this UVa Online Judge I used as a collaborative tool because I collaborated with them in order to solve the problems. If I didn't know the solution of a problem, we would just join together. And the UVa Online Judge was kind of background, so the target, let's say, to beat. But at the end of the day, the goal was to compete against other teams. So you have both aspects. The first part, you collaborate with your team, with people who are around you, with teachers that can help you in order to compete with other people. After the competition, you also learn from them, you collaborate with them, you interact with them. How did you solve this? Give me pointers, I give you pointers. So you collaborate with them. So it's not like you can say collaborative or competitive. I think both ways are very, very related. And the second question was, sorry. Yeah, whether they are useful for teaching or just for self-learning. Well, my experience, I only used it for self, in the sense of us, learning, because I didn't participate in any class, in any university class that was using any online judge at all. So the way I learned programming in university was with a teacher without any side tools. So I can only evaluate how we can use the online judge for self-learning. And in fact, it is a very, very valuable tool because the judge can give you this quality feedback. The judge can tell you not only whether your answer is accepted, correct, or not, but whether your solution, how it is compared with the solution of other people. So you did it well, but you could have done better. Or you did it pretty well because other people did it slower. So it's a very, very valuable tool. It also provides you with more problems that you can solve in a lifetime. So if you want to practice, you always can. And regarding this, whether it is useful for teaching, well, I saw many people that uses it. I've been collaborating with some professors who asked me, okay, what kind of problems should I propose to my students? Do you have any list of problems divided by topic or by difficulty? So I know it is used outside. Now, whether the results of learning programming are better with online judge or without online judge, this I'm not in a position to evaluate. But given the fact that many professors are using it, I would say you can actually get something out of it. I don't think they only use it just because it's automatically correcting things and they don't have to correct them by hand. That would be very, very naive. So I would say, okay, it's very useful. I can assess it's very useful for self-learning, but I also think it could be used for teaching, like in a on-site class.
So let's give the floor.
Good evening. So I have to agree with my esteemed colleagues. I think we've all come to a very similar conclusion that when you ask whether these systems are collaborative systems or competitive systems, I think the answer again is both. The systems really have grown up out of competition, so they're really well optimized for putting on competitions. You bring lots of teams together. You put them in front of a computer, or you have teams distributed around the world, and you put them in front of a computer, and you ask them in a compressed time frame to solve problems. And these systems are really designed for competition. They're really designed to keep information hidden, right? It's hiding what the input and output is. It's hiding what your competitors are submitting, and so. It really is built around competition. There's collaboration within the team, but of course collaboration between teams is against the rules. So I think that we have to think about these systems when we want to take them from a competitive landscape, really where they grew up, and when we turn them into these online systems like the UVA system, and try to figure out how to make them into collaborative systems. So I think they are collaborative systems, but it's important to remember a couple of things when you're enabling the collaboration. And enabling this collaboration is really important if we want to provide opportunity for people around the world to become better problem solvers. There aren't enough there's not enough classroom space. There aren't enough professors to teach on an individual basis all the skills that the students need to learn. So if they really want to be able to develop those skills, we need to provide them with collaborative environments like the UVA judge system. But a couple of things when building these systems, things that you might do to take these systems and make them even more collaborative. So some ideas is to match people that are trying to solve these problems with mutually beneficial mentors. So a mutually beneficial mentor, it might be someone who is slightly ahead of the person that's trying to solve the problem. To take these systems and make them even more collaborative. So some ideas is to match people that are trying to solve these problems with with mutually beneficial mentors. So a mutually beneficial mentor, it might be someone who has is slightly ahead of the person that's trying to solve the problem. So if I've just learned about a particular area, and if I'm trying to learn about a particular area and you have just studied those algorithms, let's say dynamic programming or greedy algorithms or whatever it is, it might be nice if the two of us can interact, right? If I can ask for help from someone who's just been working on those algorithms. It's mutually beneficial because if I can't solve the problem and you can help me out because you just learned about that class of algorithms, then that's going to help me solve a problem I couldn't solve, so it's collaborative. But also if you're able to take what I'm doing and look at it and try to figure out the kind of mistakes that I'm making, that also informs you as well. Also for these collaborative environments, support for brainstorming, right? If I'm with a team in this collaborative environment and what we want to do is, as a team, we want to solve the problem, but maybe we're not in the same room together, how do I provide an environment where we can work together, can brainstorm about solutions? Also, I may want to be able to have the opportunity to review and even to view solutions that others have submitted that have been judged as correct. So I can use that opportunity to give feedback, why did you do it this way? Wouldn't it be more efficient? Or to see what the top developers are doing. And there, of course, you have to have systems that carefully consider in this kind of collaboration, is this advice that's being given, if it's considered advice, is it good advice or is it bad advice? But I think there are mechanisms for doing that. And also, I think in these collaborative environments, one of the important things about competition is you have a set of problems that you have the option of solving, and the question is, which problems do you solve and which do you not solve? Which problems do you try to solve first? What are the easy problems? And so another aspect, I think, of these online systems in the sort of the next step of collaboration is, how do I provide these groups of these teams of individuals the ability to triage problems, to figure out, well, how do we brainstorm about which problems are easy and which problems are hard? So, the collaborative versus competitive, I think they are both. But I think on the collaborative side, I think there are lots of opportunities for ways to assist in collaboration and to assist in collaborative learning. In terms of, are they useful for teaching versus self-learning? Again, I think the answer is both. Teaching is, typically done in a specific context, right? It's directed by some sort of mentor that's already an expert. So I think in those environments, these online judges are great, right? I think I can give my students lots of problems to try to solve. I can let them choose the problems that they want to solve. Maybe I pick a class of or a type of algorithm that I want them to solve, and I say, pick a medium dynamic programming problem. Do whichever one you want. And the students can then gravitate toward the things that they're interested in and solve the problems that they're interested in instead of just the dynamic programming problem that I've come up with. But when we start looking at self-learning, we have to think about how we're going to apply these online technologies. And a lot of this has already been done, but you need problem identification. So like the UHunt system built in concert with the UVA system is really focuses on problem identification, difficulty identification. Other issues might be, how do I decide where to start, right? What is the first problem I should try? If I try this one and fail, what should I do next, right? In self-learning, the objective for these kinds of collaborative system is to be encouraging. So, you're encouraging by the first problem that you run into is a problem that you can already do. And if you get to the point where you're stuck, what is it that you're going to do with these systems? So, but in these traditional systems, right? What is the answer? A few people have talked about this difficulty today in using these as educational system. The answer is either the solution is accepted or the solution is rejected. Now the question is, for using this as a self-learning system, is what if I'm stuck, right? What if I try and I can't figure it out, and all I'm getting is rejected? How does that benefit me with respect to self-learning? So I think that there are other things in the UDebug system, et cetera. These are all, and the UHunt system, these are all ways to enhance existing online judge systems. And it's great that the UVA system is really designed, I'm guessing, Miguel, from the very beginning to really foster this idea of, if you have some idea for enhancing self-learning, then you can use that with the UVA online judge system. So it's really impressive to me that these systems, the system that's been built and operating since the Stone Age of the internet, which is impressive. I hadn't realized that it started back in 1997, which is really right after the World Wide Web was worldwide. That this system was really designed with the foresight to be able to couple with other systems and really enable self-learning. So again, my answer for that one, self-learning and teaching, obviously, I think the answer that I would give is both. And I think we have lots of interesting challenges, some of which are being addressed by the DOM judge system and the UDebug system, for really helping people be the best problem solvers that they can be, by giving them the assistance and the direction that they need to be successful. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. You said much about the questions, so I don't have so much to add, so much new things to add.
We need an outlier.
Yeah. Wait for Bill. So let me start with self-learning. It's somewhat obvious that online judges are useful tools for self-learning. If you want to practice an art or an instrument, learn an instrument, you have to practice. You have to do it on your own. You have to make your hands dirty. And online judges help you to do that and to keep your fingers on the keyboard and try and until you have developed a skill set to solve these problems. So that's the easiest question of the four. With teaching, I already explained in my talk how we use it in teaching. So it's possible to use online judges in teaching, but it comes with challenges. So if you use plain online judges in teaching, it may be a frustrating experience for beginners. And Jeff already mentioned that one question is, how do we select the problems? How do we sort the problems to solve for the students? What happens if a student cannot solve a problem? Should he try an easier problem? Should he get help? So we have to solve these kind of issues. And a second thing is rejection doesn't feel good. So that binary decision in online judges, that was one of the main points we had to solve. And I think I showed ways how to solve it. So for the competitive versus collaborative, again, it's obvious that the competition is the main focus of the online judges. And when we started as students, myself, when we started competing at online contests and tried solving problems at UVA, we compared ourselves in the rank list, and yeah, I solved 2 more problems than you, and so next night he solved 3 problems and told me, and so that competition encourages us to learn and to be better than other persons, and we couldn't have done that without collaboration, because with all that competition comes the collaboration, and it comes in various ways. One way is to tell the other person, you should solve that problem. That is an interesting problem. And the other one is to really help the other person to solve the problem. And I think we as teachers should encourage students to help each other and create rooms to make that possible. One option is to make a dedicated place. We created the IRC channel, and in this IRC channel we have students from former semesters, which are helpful for very, very dumb questions, and they help out every person, and they discuss algorithms, and that helps really a lot. And the second thing I mentioned in my talk is that the students are able to view source code and learn from correct solutions. And in the IRC channel, it happens very often that one asks, how did you solve that so fast? And the answer is, solve it yourself, then you can see how I solved it so fast. And that's, yeah, I find it interesting to view this competition and collaboration at the same moment. Yeah.
Yes. Well, anyway, going back to the original question.
Is that the outlier?
Yeah, that, you know, there's no question that...
By the way, sorry to interrupt,
Go ahead.
Bill. You might have seen that 4 panelists have used more or less half an hour. So now Bill will fill the remaining space.
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to. To me, it's about community. We live in a very complex world, one that's gone through tremendous changes over the last 100 years. And universities are a global community. And it's actually okay for universities to help the next generation do a better job of building a better world than we did. It's okay everywhere. And one of the things we did when we started pulling together the ICPC community, because that's really what it is we wanted to make sure as a community of that was totally open door, no closed doors at all. Every student in the world can compete in the ACM programming contest. And that's okay, because every community in the world ultimately cares about the next generation, or they fade away. So I'm just really glad to be here and to hear your opinions and to be part of the joy of knowing that there's so much sweat equity in this community. Everyone here not only understands about the community, but they have invested in it and made it better. And when I'm talking about the community, ICPC is a part of that, and certainly has been a major innovator in it. But you are all ICPC volunteers, whether you've actually volunteered to put on a particular competition in there, because, like I say, it's about community. I sometimes describe the ICPC like a bus that is stranded on a very narrow road pointing in the wrong direction. And everybody finally figured out they couldn't pick up the bus, so everybody got in the bus and started going. You know, fully believing that they'd come to a fork in a road or some place where they could turn around and go in the right direction. But over a period of time, we really didn't realize that we knew what the right direction was. What we needed to do was to get better and better at being a community on the bus and enjoying that trip. And it really wasn't long before we discovered that there's a whole web of activity. There was a whole lot of things that we could do, and if we could just be clever, we could enjoy the process of getting where we wanted to go and ultimately enjoy the place where we got to. So I can only tell you that much of the assumed history of the ICPC and all the right decisions that we made probably didn't happen that way. Now, what did happen is that we try to learn from other communities how to be a better problem-solving community, because that is the one thing that pulls us all together. We love to solve problems, and we see beauty in solving problems, and we see value in solving problems, especially when the problems that we solve enhance the lives of others. And so there's a lot of just plain good in the ICPC community. It's good for the universities, it's good for other communities, it's good for other disciplines, and it's good for us because we like to do this. Now, when I look at online judges, they are a part of the community that can only be delivered in the way that they are delivered. They are one of the buses in the fleet of competitive learning. They're online. There's no door closed to anyone who's online to use those resources. And that's exciting for a myriad of reasons. But what really makes it great is it's the people who make it great that ask the questions, how could it be better? You can feel that in the experience that you have with that online community. When I look at all of the communities that are raising up to be part of the larger problem-solving community, I'm excited about that. As new tools for collaboration come together, people ask, why aren't we collaborating? The reason we didn't collaborate before was the bus was stopped on the side of the road. Somebody figured out how to get the bus going. Now that we're in a bus and now that we're moving, let's do some piloting of that bus to take us where we'd like to go. If we look at software engineering and finding defects in products, one of the interesting things that is still true is that the number one way of finding a defect in your software system is a code check by a buddy. It's getting somebody else who's different than you but has the same driving interest to be good to take a look at what you've done and give you some feedback. You see, problem solving is a team sport. Yes, there are solo efforts. It is important to build the strength of everybody on the team, but when I look at a programming team, what I know is they do have a coach, yes, but every one of the members of the team is a coach for everybody else. You know, it is a sport. It's a performance sport. The difference is that it's not only about entertainment, and it is about entertainment because that lifts the heart, but at the end of the day, we create tools and the capacity to create new tools that can enrich our world. and the world of other people. I'm always amazed to find out how many of the principal developers in much of industry competed in the ACM programming contest or assisted in the contest to put on the contest. Because the people in this room are really part of that community. You're in that contest to put on the contest, to make sure that the bus matters, the fleet of buses matter, you know, that the movement matters, and that people, the doors are open for people to come onto the bus that they want to get on and make the progress that they need to make. So online judges are very much a part of the community effort, and I love hearing how that can be improved. There are a lot of reasons why the ACM International Collegiate Programming Contest is what it is today, but the number one reason is that's the way the community wants it to be. We're you know, I look at it and I say, hey, why don't we do so-and-so? No, this is a competition, this is a sport. We understand this sport, we have investment in this sport. We see the improvement in the problem-solving ability for those who participate in it, and we don't want to change a thing. Oh, it does change. In the early days, we only used Fortran and COBOL. You know, I finally got Pascal in there, and then finally we got C++ in there, and finally we got Java in there. You know, so the tools do change a little bit. In fact, we'll have Python as one of the contest problem languages in just another year. So we do make small changes, but I'd like to make the argument that the competition itself is neither right nor wrong. It is an artifact of the life of computer science, information technology, and the community that you know makes all of that work. And there's plenty of room for great ideas. All that I can really advise you is that there are really three things that you need to make a difference. Okay, you need to have some passion. Okay, and you need to have people around you who can fill that passion, and you need to have a purpose. And when you have people and passion and purpose, you've got a community. Okay, and you have a community that's capable of being better. You know, and I'm just quite privileged to be a part of that larger community, and for you to be a part of my world and for me to be a part of your world. And what I know is that you're making a difference, and so I really appreciate that. That's about it.
Thanks, Bill, and thanks everyone. I have taken a lot of notes. So we have now an hour to talk about these things or any other you might want to ask. So first of all, I have not given my opinion. So let me disagree with you. I say so because it's understandable that you say it's both. All of you have said both. But if you have to choose, I think that the answer to the first question is they are mostly competitive, and the answer to the second question is they are mostly for self-learning. Anyone who want to rebate this? I say so because in my case it's like you were saying, it's the old times. In the case of the contest, it's true that we were a team. In my last year, when I was already old, I was in the team with Carlos and Jesus, and in the previous year, I was also with Jesus, who's here, and in the first 3 years we were with our colleagues who are watching us today. But at the end of the day, it's, as you were saying, Toby, it's about the ranking. So you saw there how many problems you have got accepted. As you were saying, as before, it's not. It's only black and white. So it's the number of problems you get. The judge has improved a lot, and now it says which is the fastest problem solver for any given problem. But by that time, it was the ranking. So I think that they were basically competitive. Of course, with your team, I remember that we had preparing sessions, and we got together and work on the different problems and give tips and hints. But when we got together, typically we were not in front of the judge, but rather talking about how to solve a given problem. And I could even say, to be again an outlier, that sometimes even during the contest, there was a small competition to get the keyboard. So it was a scarce resource, and typically you got together and say, let's divide and conquer. I take this problem, you take that one, and there was only one keyword, so you had to write on the paper, wait for your turn. Of course, if the problem didn't get accepted, you talk to your colleagues, or even at the beginning before writing it, you talk to them how to approach this and so on. But as I said, there was a competition for the keyword. And then regarding teaching and self-learning, of course, in our times without the advice from Miguel, who was the mentor, we wouldn't have learned. But when you were in the judge, you were basically self-learning, and I think on broader terms, and perhaps you might disagree, the ones who work in the education industry, it seems that the trend for education is towards self-learning. For example, we have been talking today about the MOOCs. You say MOOCs or MOOCs in English? Massive online MOOCs. So with the MOOCs, I think that the trend is for self-learning, and of course you need the supervision of a professor who gives you hints, but there is a lot of personal work. So that was my point of view. If we have to choose, and now let's vote. Given the audience has been passive so far, so for the first question, the ones who think it's more competitive, raise your hand. Okay. And the ones who think is collaborative. Okay, so in the voting, probably for remote audience and offline audience, it seems that in the audience, here in the room, most of the people said it was competitive. However, in the panelists, most said it was collaborative. Yes, of course. Feel free to say anything whenever you want. Also,
I'm afraid to disagree with you, but maybe you are focusing on your experience with the online judge, which has to do with the first versions of the online judge, where the only thing you had was a judge in front of you. You throw a ball at him, he gives it back to you. But this has evolved. I mean, you might have not experienced the social part of the online judge. We've included, since remote times, a forum. The number of users has increased. So typically, when you have a site with n users, only 1% of them actively use the site. So if you have 1,000 users, which is what we had at that time, maybe there are 5-10 users who are really active, but now we have like 500,000 users, which means that we have a community of 1,000 users who actively use the judge, who give their opinions. I mean, when I look at the forum, I'm really amazed that for every question posed in the forum, there is a real thread saying, okay, you should try this, you should try that. So people there are not competing. They are looking for help. They are receiving help from other people like them. I mean, I remember that after my contest time was over, I started collaborating in the maintenance on the online judge. And it is there where I really learned how to program the algorithms and so on, even though I didn't need it anymore. Because this is when people came to me and said, okay, here is a code, it's not accepted, can you please tell me why, or can you please help me this, or give me hints on this problem. Or, I mean, in that aspect, for me, the online judge has been more a collaborative tool than a competitive tool. And I think this is the trend. The trend is going towards the social. I think tomorrow Miguel is going to give a talk about the new developments of the online judge. And the trend is to...
Please do not disclose them yet.
No, then the general trend of all online judges is to forget about this one-to-one against the machine mode and move towards the social aspects of the learning with online judges.
Actually, I'd like to share mine. Oh, go
ahead. So I have... My answer to that is in the form of a question. Is an axe create a tool of creation or destruction? Well, if you need shelter, an axe. Oh, sorry. Yes, like you chop down a tree with. If you need shelter, if it's cold outside and it's raining, right, and you can use an axe to chop down a tree and build shelter. Well, it's a tool of creation, right? You create a log cabin, you get out of the weather, it traps a little of the heat, right? But if you're a tree, what do you think about an axe? Is it a tool of creation or is it a tool of destruction, right? So my point there is that I see these online systems as tools, and they can be used in a variety of ways. So they can be used competitively, and have been. That was how they were created and their primary purpose in their creation. But the point that I was trying to make earlier was that with some additional stuff like the discussion groups and some of the activities that have been going on, you can also take that same tool and make it collaborative. So I really think of the online judge system as as really a tool that you can use in teaching, that you can use in self-learning, that you can use in a collaborative environment, but that in the end, you can set up a competition and get all your friends together, and it's it's a competition to see who can solve the most problems and have the biggest bragging rights. So that's my answer, is that because really at its core, it is a tool, can really be applied in multiple ways.
So I'd like to take a view that's absolutely opposite to what Professor Sánchez said, because my experience has been very different. I'm perhaps the only one here who's not a competitive programmer. So I got to learn about competitive programming mostly after school, right? So the way I started out is by trying these problems and trying to get good at them. And right now when I run UDebug, there are people asking me questions every day. I mean, they assume I run the site, so they think I know the answers to all the questions. And it's great to get these kinds of questions from users. So I see a lot of collaboration. It's like I get messages on chat or email, and people ask me, okay, how do I solve this? And to Carlos's point, being active on the forums and on the boards has helped me learn a lot of these answers to these questions, because I'm forced to do them. People ask me, okay, what is exactly wrong with my code? And so I need to go through them, look at the code, and that forces me to think and come up with the answers. So in my experience, I see it as a really powerful tool for collaboration, because it has forced me to learn as well as all the people I interact with. And that's been a very rewarding experience to see this. The other way I think about it is like it really transcends all geographical boundaries. Like I think Professor Ravi was saying earlier today, is like the judge is really active at night, and so that's across time zones. Obviously, when it's night in, say, Asia, the US is wide awake, and then when the US is sleeping, most of Asia is, awake. So it's like having a 24/7 collaboration of people asking questions and helping each other. So I see that as a very positive tool for learning.
Thanks, Vinit. Bill.
I probably don't need that. Yeah, it's a very strange thing that the best server that you could possibly use is very likely on a different continent than the one you're on when you're working in this marvelous world that we're in. I like to think of the competition, for some reason, got a bad rap in the 60s and in the 70s. There's nothing wrong with competition as long as competition is challenge-oriented, and as long as that competition results in you getting better at meeting the challenge and the other people in your community getting better at meeting the challenge. I think there's a lot of confusion. Being a predator, okay, that's bad. It's counter-community, okay? But when we actually set up the competition, it's a competition like golf. I mean, the cup is this big, the ball is that big, you have some sticks. You become better at the sport as a result of working to become better and playing with other people who are very good and learning from your experience, learning from their experience, and there's the joy of accomplishment. Okay, the difference is that, rather than having a 3-inch hole and a ball that's that big, what we want you to do is become masters of algorithms and problem solvers, because we know what that can lead to in your career and in the future of the next generation. When I grew up, our grades were posted on the door. There was no privacy. That if you wanted to know what I made on an exam, you just showed up when the exam scores were done, and there they were. How did you cope with that? Well, you know, if you're at the bottom of the list, you didn't feel very good about your performance. But that didn't mean that you didn't feel good about who you were as a human being. It simply meant that you needed to improve your performance. Okay? It meant that maybe you needed to make some decisions to focus your traits on areas where they were talents. I make that distinction. If it turns out that you weigh 100 pounds, okay, then that trait could make you a very good jockey on a horse. The horse will love you. On the other hand, if you have a trait of being 7 feet tall, maybe you would be a better basketball player. So one of the challenges that we all face as we're growing up is to try to figure out a way of turning our traits into talents. What makes it a talent? Well, if it contributes to your being better and as an individual and as a member of the community. So the competitive learning is not, it is a benefit to everyone who participates if they find that they can get better at it. Okay? It's also a benefit if you can find that, frankly, your interest is not there, or perhaps your traits don't turn this experience into a talent. The challenge is this. A lot of the competitive learning model is based on the brightest students in computer science and computer engineering and mathematics and physics from the world's universities. So that's really not where you want to start. You know, that's where you want to finish. So it's okay for a problem to be judged accept, reject, because that's equivalent as a professional to, you know, being paid or not paid for your labor. There are naturally binary things. But I really like what people are saying about online judges and online coaches. You know, we need to make certain that we don't turn away people whose traits could become gifts and talents in problem solving because they're not in the right local environment for encouragement, you know. So I love the fact that we're using more collaborative tools for people to communicate, and I think that we need to make sure that the initial threshold is very low. We're not rating you as an individual. We're just saying, you know, if you're not doing very well in here, you know, you could do a lot better, and let's direct you where you need to go so that you can get better. That's why it's important for us to think of this as a sport, or, if you would, a performance art. When you start out as a musician, you can't play the instrument that you're trying to learn. Everybody knows you can't play. Okay? But one of the things that you need are some lessons. Okay? So from musicians we learn, you know, that you need to have lessons, and guess what? You need to practice. Right? And then you also need to play together. You need to rehearse with others. Oh, maybe you'll be a soloist, but most of the time you play in an ensemble. And it's the other musicians that help you get better. Okay. Ultimately, you need to have a dress rehearsal because you would like to get to the point that you can perform for other people. Because that's part of the spirit of the art of music. You know, it's not just for me, it's for us. You know, and ultimately you have to perform. And it's by repeating that process, you know, of lessons, okay, practice, rehearsal and performance that we get better and better as musicians, and that's how we get better and better as computer scientists, and I think that's how we get better and better at almost everything that's part of humanity. So I really am excited about our looking at how we do things and learning from others who develop expertise in each other. So are we competitive? Sure, but we're not predators. Okay, you know, in the ACM programming contest, it's against the rules to unplug somebody else's computer. You know, what we're trying to do is to get better at what we do. You know, so I think we're a very pure sport. We're not a combat sport. But in reality, we are in combat, in a sense, in this world, because there are some challenging problems that have faced mankind for all of the time that we have been on this planet, okay? And there are natural solutions to them. War, famine, pestilence, you know, the occasional meteor. Those are not good enough. We can do better. We can rejoice in our life, and we can compete to solve problems that make life better for us as individuals, as small communities, and in terms of the larger communities that our communities are part of. Yeah. So that's sort of what I think.
So many thanks, Bill. So I think we could keep talking about these two questions for very long, even overnight. But given that we have the privilege to have here this panel, I would like them to help us with a problem we have. Here in the room, we have the three people, the only team that has represented the university in the World Finals, and this happened 14 years ago. And the problem we have is that let's say we are far from having we are far from being close to reach the finals again as of today. Perhaps this season the situation changes. So my question is, University of Valladolid is relatively large university. It has a computer science school. It has an electrical engineering school. It has a science faculty with mathematics, physics. You have mentioned before. How can we attract the talent to the contest, and how can we? What would you say them? Look, this is you are missing a big opportunity, and this is not only fun. It's something that it will improve your life, so to say.
Yeah. I'll give this right to you in a second. Let me respond a little bit to that, and that is that the competition today is among 2,600 universities in the world, and only 128 go to the World Finals. So it's extraordinarily difficult to get to the World Finals. It was when your team got there. You guys were really good, you know. The thing is we're looking at competition today and looking at putting another tier of competition in, you know, because it now takes a certain amount of good fortune to advance to the World Finals. But there's another thing that's happening. Universities are finding out that when you have students who are committed to high performance in sports programming, that it raises the level of performance of all the other students. And that's because of peer pressure. You got to admit one thing, college students and high school students are affected by what their buddies do, right? So if you raise the bar of performance for some of the students, the performance goes up for everyone else as well. Now, what do sports do to make sure that they have great performers in their universities? They give scholarships. They provide for special training for those students as well. They have coaches. You see, so what I would do is to take a look and say, hey, let's set a goal that we're going to have 4 teams that compete from Valladolid each year, one for every year of those 4 years, and that team in the 4th year is going to distinguish itself in regional competition, and it won't be long before every so often a team will advance to the World Finals. But go ahead and offer 12 full-ride scholarships where their job is to develop their talents as much as possible and include in that the opportunity for them to coach other students to become more competitive and greater masters of algorithms. It doesn't need to be, you know, you learn by teaching, right? So that's what I would suggest doing, because actually most of the teams, I think, that advance teams to the World Finals today have a scholarship program. They have coursework in competitive programming for those students who are attracted to do that. And so I know, for instance, at Peking University, they have an active group working all the time on their problem-solving prowess, and those students solve between 1,000 and 3,000 problems a year. That's a lot more than 10 a semester, you know? And you say, how can they do that? Well, it's because it's one of those things where when you say Warshall's algorithm, you could write it out on a pad of paper in 30 seconds, then you can spot the problems that need Warshall's algorithm, and you can deliver it. You're operating at a higher level of abstraction, and what you're working with is highly refined. You know, there is the natural athlete in you, right? But then there is the top amateur athlete in you as well. And so that's what I recommend. I don't think it takes, by the way, any more than that. It just simply says, if we can do this in health to have a soccer team, why can't we do this in computer science? You know, to have a really competitive program. So part of it is that the competition has been so successful. That's really where the investment is, and I think it's actually a good place for a university to go.
My advice is catch them early. So that's the most important thing, to get new students attracted to the contest. So what we do is we have a fun contest after or at the end of the first semester, and that fun contest is we have very easy problems in that contest. We have also hard problems for the better teams, but that's mostly to attract new students. So 50% of the contestants in that contest are freshmen, and they love it. And if they love it, they gain self-motivation to keep practicing, and that's the most important thing you can do. Catch them early and give them something they can be proud of, to solve 3 problems or so in their first contest. That's good.
Yeah, honor them before stepping out and you know, good job, great. I mean, there's just it's a lost art. You know, we sometimes have lots of excuses around. Well, I know you're having a bad day or something of that variety, but what but we also need to pat people on the back when they're having a good day. You know, and there's sort of a period of time in which, oh, but if I patted you on the back for having a good day, then I'm really indirectly telling everyone else that they're somehow inferior. No, we can love each other, okay? And we can rejoice that we're different. But let's also rejoice as a community in the individual accomplishment and the small ensemble accomplishment as well. That's what musicians do. That's what people in sports do. And so they get that feedback, and that feedback helps drive the passion, and with the passion, get the performance. The other thing I failed to mention is this. A lot of the programs that do well advancing teams to the World Finals are investing in the secondary schools. They're offering competitions for the local high schools. Hey, come over to University of Valladolid and compete in the online judge, and we'll feed you a meal. We'll congratulate you on how well we do. In the ICPC, even at the World Finals, if you fall in the lower half, you get an honorable mention. Now, we provide the statistics for you, but even we want to make sure that the best of the best in the ICPC community don't feel bad about it. It's their competition that makes it so doggone hard to do well, so they're really building the value of the competition. And everybody's got to be somewhere in terms of the performance of the day. But high schools really need, I don't know how things are here, but in the United States, our colleagues who are teaching in the high schools need encouragement. And we need to shine the spotlight on what they're doing and shine the spotlight on what the students are doing and encourage them to become full-blown citizens of the community that are as good as they can possibly be at whatever it is that they could be talented at. Are there persons who are not talented at anything? I guess so, sure. That's okay too. We're a community that cares about people. And we can take care of that. Their very life, their very being is valuable. Okay? But they may not be particularly valuable at providing some benefit for the community, and so what we want to do is to bring out the best and make sure that we live up to our potential.
I'd just like to add to the excellent suggestions already told. One thing we could do is to get students together and actually tell them the benefits of what it means to go to the World Finals. Like, we were having lunch yesterday with Professor Poucher, and he mentioned that the world finalist, one of the world finalists actually founded a big company like Zappos.com. And similarly, the top scientists at Google all have been former world finalists. So in that way, you give a motivation to students to say, yeah, if you are at that level, then your prospects of future and life also are very positive, or it can be a good encouragement.
But all of the students who compete to represent their universities in the regional competition they've done great as well. You know, the key is they have more confidence because they've gone out and they've represented their university, you know, on a field of play, and so they have more confidence that they can do well. They also can see how well other people do, and so many of them are more confident that they could do better in developing algorithmic excellence. Yeah, I actually had a student come by. I was at a regional. Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was at a regional contest in Southern California when I saw someone that I had seen at another competition, and they were working. That person was working with a competition. I said, "How are you doing?" "Fine." He says, "Now, I recognize you, but I can't place you." "Oh, I was on a team from university in Canada 16 years ago." And I said, "Oh, well, that's cool. So what are you doing now?" It said, "I'm unemployed." I'm thinking, wow, this is actually the first person I've ever known who is, you know, unemployed at that point in their career in the ACM programming contest. And I said, "Really?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "Well, what did you do after college?" He says, "Well, you know, I wasn't one of the best competitors in the ICPC, but I knew that there were some really talented people there, so when I went to the contest, I identified who is really talented, went up and talked to them to see if they'd like to start a company. And two of them bit in on that, and we started a company, you know, during the dot-com boom." I said, "Well, what happened?" "Well, the company did really well, you know, and it got through the dot-com boom, and it continued doing well. And about 6 months ago, we sold it, and I made $600 million. And I said, "What?" "Well, that was probably pretty good, $600 million. And it says, so you're unemployed?" "Yeah, well, you know, I took the money, I went all over the world, I did all the things that I was going to do, and now I'm just bored stiff. I don't have anything to do. I need a job." You know, and I'm sort of laughing about this, and I'm thinking, well, you know, that's sort of an interesting way to be unemployed. But that's who people are. They need to be doing something of value, something that brings the passion out in their life. But here's an example of somebody who purposely took advantage of making the social contacts to build a company. When I was in St. Petersburg, Russia, during the World Finals in 2013, we happened to go to Subway, of all things, in St. Petersburg to get a little bit of food, and there was a person over on the a table over and said, "Hey, you're with the ACM programming contest." And I said, "Yeah, we are." It says, and we talked to the guy, and he says, "Well, what brings you here?" I said, "Oh, well, that's easy. I have a partner, and she is one of the most gifted students ever who competed in the ACM programming contest." I said, "Who is she?" And she told me, and he told me. And he says, "So what's happening?" He says, "Well, our business is doing great. I do micro investing, you know, and I've gotten used to making several $1 million a year, and she's the one who's been driving all of this development, and I'm worried that she's overworked, and so I'm trying to see if I can't recruit somebody into my business." I said, "Well, how many do you have in the business?" And said, "I think there are 4 of us." I'm thinking, 4 of you? Well, it turns out they developed algorithms for tracking how people invested, I guess that's the word, gambled, whatever it is, on the stock market, and they could pick up the behavior of people and guess when it was going up and down, and bought quickly and sold quickly, and were very, very successful. So there are lots and lots of stories of people, you know, saying, "Hey, this is a very fertile ground, let me go out and recruit." Now, one of my favorite stories, I guess, is in 2005 at the World Finals in in Shanghai. I got a note from a world champion team member from 1993 who happened to be the chief technology officer of Google. And he says, Bill, you know, it's really hard for us to raise the money to go to the World Finals. It's really super, and I want to solve that problem. Do you think, you know, how much do you think students spend on transportation to the World Finals? And I said, probably about $600,000. And he said, well, I'll write you a check. I said, I don't want a check. He says, why? Well, because I want them to go out and raise the money to go to the World Finals, because that makes connections in the community, and the community will value it better. You know? He was a bit disappointed, but don't you love somebody who does that? And of course, you know, the Google jams and things of this variety all came because of the love of competition within Google, and Google is very, and Facebook and all of the major companies and have top developers who came through this program that you've made happen. Okay, and so the thing to realize is that the community is a giving community. It is a community that loves a challenge, but a lot of good things happen to students who just decide that they want to go into a programming contest class and build a company from the talent that is there.
So, thanks again. As a matter of fact, you have already answered the next question I was about to pose about give some examples of what top talent in the contest have done. You have given very good examples of recruiting and also entrepreneurs. I didn't get the company you mentioned before. Zappos. Zappos.
Sure. Okay. That was the same team, by the way. So the founder of Zappos, you know, built Zappos as well. Yeah, same team. There's the head at USC of their game program is a past world champion. The department chairman at Rice is a past champion. He once told me, I said, well, you know, can you tell me what difference that made? Well, it made a big difference because his opportunities to go to top universities improved. He says, but the thing I really like about it is that I'm the only faculty member in computer science at Rice that all the students really believe that I can program. He told me that. MIT major professor as well. People have done lots and lots of different things as a result of the ICPC. We should probably follow up on that. But one of my favorite comments came from a student who competed in the ACM programming contest from Russia, okay, from St. Petersburg. And he went on to become a coach and a judge and is still with the ACM programming contest. He said, when I was young, I was, you know, I lived in St. Petersburg. I'm a Russian. I love living in St. Petersburg. I'm a citizen of St. Petersburg. But after competing in the ACM programming contest, I became a citizen of the world. I can go anywhere. Okay? I know I can get a job anywhere in the world. Okay? But I am a citizen of St. Petersburg by choice, not just by birth. And it makes all the difference in my life. And I love that part of it because it means you're part of a larger community. And that's really, really important in the world that we live in today. Because if we don't build community and buy-in, okay, then we'll have another disaster like World War II.
So you have given the contestant perspective. Some of them have been entrepreneurs, you have said, very successful. What about the company perspective? Are these this hiring casual, so to say, or is there some sort of program in which companies ask you for talent or?
Oh, sure. So last year, Facebook invited me out for their final of the Facebook hackathons, and that was a lot of fun. Turns out most of the folks who organized that are past ICPC competitors, or they put on the contest. And so one of them told me that 80% of getting a job at Facebook in the hard science development area is, did you represent your university in the ACM programming contest? And then they would look at your credentials to verify that. But it basically meant you were a problem solver and you could work on a team to solve problems, and you didn't mind getting better at what you did. And so, yeah, and the same is true at most of the, what I call the hard science, computer science companies, the companies that have problems that are really challenging and that provide the utilities of life on the planet. I was really glad to see that. But I really like the idea that 2 or 3 people could get together and form a company. See, it's, you know, from my standpoint, I like to see company being little c companies. Hey, I've got company over. Let's solve a problem. I like that.
Great. So we have still 15 minutes left, and I would like to, I have another curiosity, of course. If you want to ask, do not hesitate to do so. I think I won't oblige you. So I have many questions, but I have another curiosity, which is the intersection between successful contestants and UVa Online Judge. So my first question is, do you have some figure, an approximate figure of the percentage of champions or finalists who have used Online Judge? And related to this, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the most successful contestant ever is the one who has won the last 2 editions, and this is the maximum because there is a limit. So you can only compete twice in the finals. And I think I've heard that that he didn't use the Online Judge. So I think there must be a mistake. It must be impossible. So anyone who wants to take this?
So I don't have any data about how many of past world champions used which online system. However, we have asked the teams that are the medalists in the various years, you know, what sort of is the secret of your success? And consistently they report solving between 1,000 and almost 3,000 problems a year in preparation. That is a crazy number of problems to solve, and I'm hard pressed to think of how you solve and evaluate that many problems without some sort of automated online judging system. So yeah, I don't have specific data, but given that all of them report that to be that kind of competitor requires that level of practice, you know, my supposition would be that virtually all of them, if not all of them, actively use some online judge system in preparation for the contest.
Let me say this, though, too. You know, if your last name was Bach and your dad was a composer, you probably don't necessarily need a lot of help. You know, if your last name is Bernoulli and your dad was a mathematician, more than likely you can get help at home okay? But online systems all owe a debt to the UVA system because it's the first successful online system. And all of the graduate students in computer science owe a huge debt to it because it's judged 16 million problems. And that's 16 million problems that graduate students at computer science departments didn't have to judge. You know, so there's a great benefit to everybody just in terms of the work of evaluation and helping people understand when they're closer to the mark.
Well, in fact, to answer that question, I don't have either any kind of survey or anything direct data, but I have some indirect data that could answer that question. So the first one is in the site, we do this all kind of statistics and plots and fancy figures. One of them is the number of submissions per month along the year. So it happens to be like a straight line with a couple of peaks. These peaks, the first one is in November, second one is in May. So what we extrapolate from that, which might be wrong, but we assume it is correct, is during November, all the students, the participants, are preparing for the regional contests. On May, everybody is preparing for the finals. So the fact that we have 2 peaks there means something. Well,
yeah, and that's been reported from other universities. Free University in Amsterdam kept all of the peak usage of the internet from the earliest days, and they showed that the internet access went up and was timed to the regional competition and then dropped, and then was timed to the World Finals and dropped. However, I did notice that there was this little peak every week on about Saturday. And I asked him, he says, what's going on there? And he said, well, you know, in the Netherlands, we're a fairly free society, and some of our students like to pose revealing photographs, and then they get massively downloaded, and then we cut them off. And so every Saturday, they had to trim, unfortunately, the download to purient interest. But I was very glad that actually the peak usage was higher even than the purient usage of internet there. So that is true. I think that's true everywhere.
Well, the second proof, let's say, to say that people really use it, that the contestants of the World Finals actually use the UVa Online Judge, is that every year, or well, almost every year, sometimes we succeed, the night before the contest, the UVa Online Judge receives so large quantity of submissions that it gets stalled and it breaks down. So we have to be every last day just online to see, it's stalled, okay, let's reset it. So we have to be live in near real time. Miguel takes care of it, to take care of the judge, uninstall the queue. So there are so large quantity of submissions that night. The night right before the contest.
Here's an idea, okay? Of all of your users, okay, you collect collect their email addresses, right? Why don't you MD5 them? You know, in other words, basically crude encryption of the emails and indicate, you know, when they started and or indicate if they use the system. Send that to Jeff, and Jeff can MD5 them and compare them to the ICPC database, and then you know, that still preserves some anonymity, if you would, and we could probably provide that information for you. Yeah. All right.
I have. We are almost done, so my very last question before wrapping up. We have our most loyal user has solved, so regards to him, has solved almost every problem. We could say he has solved every problem because there are some special cases which are not traditional problems. But I have heard that you said that typically best contestants solve from 1,000 to 3,000. And I think we have 4,000. So this means there are many more problems. So I think we need your help to challenge our most loyal user so that he doesn't get bored and can keep increasing his milestone. So just joking. Okay, so I think it's time to close. Many thanks to all for attending, remote audience, those who will watch it offline, and of course many thanks to the panelists. It has been a pleasure to spend these 2 hours with you, and tomorrow more. Many thanks.